Hello everyone, this is N. Ramya, Civil Engineering Department, Institute of Aeronautical Engineering. Today I'm going to discuss about a water demand. So your course objective, the availability of safe, wholesome and easily accessible water in sufficient quantity, facilitating consumer needs. This is the course objective. And here is the course outcome, explaining the fundamental principles of water supply, quality demand, and the significance of effective water management systems. This is the course outcome. So here, what first we discuss what is water demand. So demand is how much amount of water is required for various purposes or for any consumer needs. So here, the water demand is the total amount of water required for various purposes, which includes humans' activities and as well as ecological needs. So here, main it encompasses all water usage like uh, domestic, industrial, agricultural, and public needs, and also for the firefighting needs. Special requirement is like firefighters, right? So here, these water demand is mainly used. It is very important for effective planning and managing the water resources. As already we discussed, the water is very less, right? So only the 3% of water is available for consumer needs and for drinking and other purposes, right? So here the managing is very important. Here is the water demand is the quantity of water given to the consumers for the various purposes, right? And it is very essential, it is very important to understand and also to estimate how much amount of water is required to ensure up for proper planning and for water supplying and for management of the water resources. It also refers to a total volume of water required for various uses or for various purposes, right? So this water demand is mainly important. It is essential to understand and to estimate how much amount of water is required, so that we planning and supply and water management. So here water demand is a key concept of planning, allocating and managing the water resources, right? So it is difficult to assess precisely because of many various factors affecting the water consumption. So here the average demand is calculated. The average demand is calculated annual demand records, and the specific demand is calculated by dividing the average demand by the number of consumers. Here per capita water demand, here the average amount of water a person needs per day is nothing but a per capita water demand, right? Per capita water demand. This is calculated by dividing a community annual water consumption by its population, and it is typically measured in terms of liters per person per day, that is LPCD, right? Liter per person per day, right? A liter per capita per day, right? So here the per capita water demand is the ratio of annual average water consumption of the community to the total population for 365 days. Average annual 365 days, so that it is giving how much amount of water is consumed per day, right? Per capita demand is annual average amount of daily water required by one person. Here is the water demand, and here 36.6% is for irrigation. We are using 36.6% for irrigation, and 40.9% is a thermoelectric power generation, right? And here public supply is 12.7%, and industrial is again 4.9%, and aquaculture is 2.9%, and domestic and livestock and mining is a 2.4%, right? So this is the water demand, how the various purposes consuming the water, how much amount of water is required by the like domestic purpose, and for aqua, and for industrial, for public supply, irrigation, and thermoelectric power. Right, so maximum here, the water is consuming by a thermoelectric power for power generation, right? After that, we are going to see the irrigation next, and at the least is 2.4, that is domestic and livestock and mining purpose, right? So what? Here, the types of water demand. Types of water demand are classified as these, right? One is domestic water demand, industrial water demand, commercial water demand, public use, and fire demand. These five are very important types, right, for water demand. Domestic purpose. First, domestic purpose means what? The domestic purpose is for drinking, bathing, cooking, cleaning, lawn sprinkling, gardening, and sanitation. These are all comes under domestic, right, water demand. So we are now coming to a commercial. Commercial means what? This is used where these water used at stores, restaurants, and offices. These comes under commercial water demand. Now coming to a industrial water demand, that is water used for manufacturing, for industry purpose. That we are calling as the industrial water demand. Public water demand is water used for public recreation, firefighting, street washing, and flushing of sewers. These are all comes under public water demand. Agriculture, water used for crop irrigation, that is called as agricultural and irrigation water demand. Yes, here how much amount of water is taking utilizing per day by different types of water demands, right? So here first is a domestic one. A domestic one direct we take the water consumption is 135 to 225 liters per capita per day, right? So this 135 to 225. So the minimum domestic water demand for a town with a full flushing system is 200. Full flushing system, the water is consuming per day is 200, right? So now coming to the industries water demand is around 50 lpcd, right? Now institutions are commercial, there we are using is around 20 lpcd. Now public utility is only a 10% of water is using per day, right? Here for drinking, it is 5%. Cooking is a 5%. Bathing is also a 5%. Laundry is 20%. Utensils is 10%. House washing is 10%. Toilet washing and etc. is 30%. So here overall the average is 135 LCD, right? According to the source is IS 1172 1983, right? Bureau of Indian Standards. Here 135 liter per day for domestic. This is completely for domestic water demand, right? So here next, domestic water used. This as we said, water used for household purposes. That we call as a domestic water demand, and that such as cooking, drinking, cleaning, bathing, all these comes under domestic purposes, right? It depends on the lifestyle and water demand, how much amount of water is consuming. It depends upon the lifestyle and cultural habits and family size. If family size is high, then the water consumption is also high. If it is family size is less and the water consumption is less, right? So here the typical ranges from 100 to 300 per person per day. Right, the average is 135 LPCD. Here that ranges from 100 to 300 depending upon the lifestyle and depending upon the cultural habits. Here the example is showering, washing clothes and cooking. The factor influencing demand is population density. If population is more, then we see the high usage of water. There we require high amount of water. Water demand is high. So income levels, quality and availability of the supply. If supply is more, the usage is more. If supply is less, the usage also, we take some, we use some less according to our requirements, right? So here next is industrial water demand. Here industrial water demand is industrial, the water we use in industries for cooling or for cleaning purposes we use there, that we call as a industrial water demand is discussed. And here based upon the type of industry, water usage also, water demand also depends on a type of industry. Some industries recycle water to reduce demand. Here the examples are steel production, textile manufacturing, food processing. These are industrial purposes, right? Factors what are the influencing the water industrial water demand is scale production, type of industry, process, and water recycling practices. These are factors influencing by the industrial water demand. Next is a commercial water demand. Commercial is, we discussed that as offices, shopping malls, there we see hotels, right? These are all we call it as a commercial. There, how much amount of water is required depending upon the size of the hotels and depending upon the lifestyle. Also, this depends on also on the hotels, right? These include for restrooms, air conditioner, and cleaning. M accounts for small share compared to a domestic or industrial demand. It is very high. It is having very small share. As we discussed, 10 LPCD, right? So depending upon the small, depending upon the other domestic and industrial, these commercial is less. Let us say that average it is 10 LPCD, right? What are the factors affecting is economic activities, business size, and customer footfall, right? If the size, if the in hotel, if the uh, population is high, then consumption also high, right? Now public water use. These public water use is we see water facilitating mainly such as parks, schools, and hospitals. These are public water demand. And here these includes water for public fountains, firefightings, and also street cleaning. This comes under public water uses, where we use in the public. May often be funded by the government budget. Is the water, what is the water amount of water use, that usage of water will go by the government budget. Right? So here municipal examples are municipal parks, public swimmings, street cleanings, and vehicles. Factors influencing demand is population growth, urban planning and policies, climate and environmental condition. These are the factors influencing for public water demand. And next is fire demand. Fire demand is mainly used for firefighting, like we have water reserved for firefighting purpose in urban and industrial areas. Typically stored in elevated reservoirs are in hydrates. Demands are estimated usually formulating by which links are Freeman's formula. These are estimated by this Freeman's formula. Water for fire hydrants, sprinklers in buildings. This mainly used when fire accident occurs. These fire hydrants are sprinklers. We water will use to slow down the fire. Are completely. So factors affecting is urban density, fire safety regulations, and risk of fire outbreaks. These are the fire demand. Now fluctuations in water demand. So fluctuations we see in different hours we see different fluctuations, right? If it is morning, the usage of water is very high. The demand is very high. When coming to in the midday, that we see very less. When comparing with morning and morning, it is somewhat less. In the evening, somewhat higher than the midday, right? So depending upon the hourly fluctuation, we see different water demands. So in hourly fluctuations, peak usage of water we see mainly in the morning, evening hours, right? In domestic households. Now daily fluctuations, increasing demands on weekends, holidays for recreational purposes. Right, on weekends we see the higher demand. Seasonal variation. If high demand in summer for cooling and irrigation, right? Water is very highly required in summer for cooling and for irrigation also. More irrigation. Reduced demands in rainy season. If it is rainy season, the usage of water is also very less, and for irrigation also require very less. The amount of water completely used is very less. Now we have factors affecting the water demand, right? Main key factors are seasonal variation. As we discussed, if it is summer season, the requirement of water is very high. Population growth. Population growth also, if population is high, the requirement of water is high. That is, demand is getting increased. Economic activities, climate and weathers. Technological advancement, urbanization and industrialization. These we see as we go inside, right? Seasonal variation. The seasonal variation is impacting the water usage with the varying weather conditions and also agricultural cycle. If it is summer, the increased demand for cooling, air conditions, fans, right, and coolers we require, and irrigation also for recreating activities like pools swimming pools. Here, monsoon rainy season lower demand for irrigation due to the natural rainfall and cool climate. In winter, reduced water consumption for cooling and moderate domestic demand. Right, in winter there is moderate domestic demand. That means overall in summer we see very uh, demand, high demand, and in monsoon also very low demand, in winter also very low demand when comparing with the summer season. High irrigation requirement during dry seasons. Now population growth. As population increases, the consumption is also increases, right? So the due to these is urbanization affecting on municipal water systems, rural areas. See, higher agricultural water demand. Rural areas, higher agricultural water demand. Population density increases, water supply also become challenging. Right? It is also increased. Examples are expanding urban housing projects requiring new water connections. Due to the urbanization, there is also new connections are required, and these when new connections require, water demand also become very high. And migrant population adding pressures on existing water resources. Migrant population coming from one place to other, that also requiring uh, water demand high. Economic activity, like economic activity that changing economic influencing industrial, commercial, and public water demand. These all three comes under economic activities. These industrial, commercial, and public water demand. These all comes under economic activities influencing the water demand. So booming industrial sector consume more water for manufacturing processes. It increased commercial activities like malls, offices, hotels. These also require water. Economic downturns may reduce demand in non-essential sectors. Example is what? High water consumption in textile manufacturing. And also restaurant caves increasing water usage during peak hours. Right? In peak hours we see higher. Like it is midday, right? Lunch, midday, we see a high peak discharge, peak water usage. Here is the climate and weather also influencing. If it is hot climate, then we require high water demand, and if it is less cooling, if it is having less temperature, then we see the less water usage. If it is hot, require more water usage. Depending upon the weather condition, water pattern is changing for water consumption, right? So the regions service droughts experiencing high water demand. For if it is droughts, means there we require more amount of water, and there what they are doing, importing the water to the droughts regions. And rainfall variabilities affects the agricultural water needs. Examples are deserts rely on desalination plants for water supply, and increased use of sprinklers in regions with less rainfall. Next is a technological advancement. Technological advancement is what? Innovation in technology leads to shift in water usage pattern by improving efficiencies and introducing new water dependent systems. Right? What are those advanced irrigation techniques? Are drip system reduces water wastage in agriculture, right? So here drip system. So in irrigation, if you are using sprinklers, then they require more amount of water, more amount of water, more amount of water. So here the sprinkler means what the water we are giving to the irrigation forms in the form of rain, artificial rain. That is nothing but a sprinkler. In the form of sprinkles, we are applying water to the irrigation fields. That is a sprinkler system. So here the drip system. Drip system is what? Here at plant root, we give a small nozzle to the pipe. That nozzle will will give water to the crops in the form of drips, in the form of drops at the root zone. At the root zone of the plant, there we see one nozzle. That nozzle, the water releases in the form of drops to the plant at the root zone. So what happens here? The wastage of water is reduced for drip irrigation, right? So here in sprinkler, if whenever you water sprinkle to the irrigation, in the sprinkler form you apply water to the irrigation. Here what happens, the sprinkler when you apply, there some part of water will evaporate into the atmosphere, right? Some part of water will evaporate, directly evaporate, without reaching the ground. Some part of water will evaporate into the atmosphere in sprinkler systems. When coming to a drip systems, here we are applying directly to the root zone of the plant. So when you are applying water to the root zone of the plant, there we see the very less amount of water, evaporation, evaporating very less amount of water. Yes, directly you are applying to the root zone, then there is no evaporation. But here we see evapotranspiration losses. But direct evaporation is not there for drip system. So here we are saving water, right? Reducing a wastage of water, like drip irrigation. When we use drip irrigation, the wastage of water is very less, because the whatever amount of water, that amount of water we are applying directly to the root zone of the plant. So now next, water efficient appliances like low flow shower heads and washing machine conserves water in households. Technologies in industrial processes, cooling towers, optimizing water usage. Examples are automated irrigation system reduces water demand in the farms, installation of water recycling systems in industries. If you use a recycled water in the recycling system, then we see the less water demand, because whatever the water they are using, again they are recycling it and they are using to the other purpose of the water. They receive some the less wastage of water, reducing the wastage of water. So now next is urbanization and industrialization. So here urbanization means what? People moving from one place to other place. It's nothing coming to the cities. That is nothing but urbanization. So development of cities and industries directly influencing water demand due to the increased infrastructure and the population. Right. So yeah, urban areas demand more water for domestic purpose and for public service and recreational facilities. Industrial growth adds to the water demand for cooling, processing, and production. Poorly planned urbanization can lead to unsustainable water extraction and shortage. If it is not planned well, planning is not done well, then we see a shortage of water. Right? This is a construction of smart cities required advanced water supply networks and establishment of new parks, industrial parks with high water requirement. The factors influencing water demand already we discussed. Once again, a summary giving population growth. A high population directly increases industrial, domestic, and public needs. Lifestyle changes also. The lifestyle changes due to the urban lifestyle demanding a more water due to the modern tools we are using for washing machine, dishwashers, gardenings, and etc. Right. Next is economical development. Growing industries and commercial hubs drive higher demands. And climate change, if hot climate require more water, if it is cool climate, then we see the less amount of water required. And technological advancement, like if efficient water management technologies can either increase or decrease the water demand. Here, factors that can increase water consumption means affluent living standards. Rich and upper class communities tends to consume more water, and industrial and commercial activities can increase water consumption significantly. Thank you.
Like, share, and subscribe. Hit the bell icon for more updates.